the core being the problem is something that we just need to think about going forward. Obviously, Francisco Lindor and Brandon Nimmo, those guys are under such long-term contracts at such big money. Even if you wanted to, those guys aren't going anywhere. But you have decisions to make on Pete Alonso heading into the trade deadline. You have decisions to make on Jeff McNeil heading into the trade deadline. So it's unfortunate that we're having this conversation, but the core of this team is, and of course, Edwin Diaz, who we'll get to in a second, but the core of this team is frankly what has let them down, and that is what makes it very infuriating. Because if it would be one thing if Sean Manaea wasn't pitching well,
right?
Or it'd be one thing if Harrison Bader was hitting 205, like that would be one thing. Bader's another example of a Stearns move that's been working out. And yeah, it's obviously very, very frustrating. And David Stearns has a lot of things to think about in the coming couple months.
And I think, there's another layer to this. The whole it's getting late early situation. You bring up all those guys having success on 1-year deals. Those are the guys that can bring you something back. I mean, if the Mets, and we're going to save the bulk of this conversation when it's time to hit that button, and it's not time yet, but an early outlook right now, Joe, is the reality is a guy like Bader might have value. A guy like JD Martinez might have value. And getting away from those very obvious ones, I mean, look at the bullpen right now. You brought up Jorge Lopez. You brought up Jake Diekman. It's going to be really, really interesting for this team. And I think if guys like Pete Alonso want to be here long-term and want to be part of the reality is right now, this is a contract year for Pete. And it's not that it's been dreadful. But he's been below average of what we're accustomed to seeing from Pete. And I think Stearns, whether the fans love it or hate it, I think the one thing with the Stearns connection to Cohen here is that Cohen is going to let Stearns build this team the way he wants to build it. And I don't think there's any fear of blowback with the decisions that he has to make. And those might be some big time decisions as well.